Hello and a very warm welcome. This is New Dawn Nigeria on Viewer Television, reaching you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. My name is Chinonso Checkers.
And of course, my name is Phillips Levin, always here at your service. Now, for the next 1 hour 30 minutes, we promise to entertain, inform, and of course, educate you on matters that has to do, I would say, from all ramification of life. Now, as usual, from the New Dawn here, we give you newspaper headlines as few selected ones. And of course, we're bringing a guest to look at matters that are affecting, whether it's from politics, education, health, from all ramification of life, and we look into that, finding, providing solutions to whatever problem that is affecting that sector. Now, for the newspaper headlines, which we'll be having next, we'll be having few of them that will be looking starting from Monday to Friday. So don't go nowhere. Up next after this break, we'll be having the newspaper headlines. Well, it's good to know that you are still with us, of course, on the New Dawn. Remember, this is a magazine program where we look at matters from all ramifications of life. Before we do that, we look at what's happening from few select national dailies that we have in, of course, Nigeria. And as usual, we start from Mondays to Friday, and we give you a little bit. That's the headline for that day. And as usual, if any of those headlines interest or intrigue you, you can drop by any vendor close to you, get a copy, and of course find out more about that. Rather, this is the 21st century is just one click away, and you can get more of that from their online platform. Now, as I said earlier, we'll be looking at the one for Monday, and the headline that I will start with in no particular order, Monday being the 20th, yeah?
Yep.
In the 20th of November. In no particular order, we're starting with the Guardian newspaper. And the top story there says Lagos others caught in fiscal recklessness amid huge legacy debt. And I know several states had that issue where they spent a lot of I would say amount for some for personal reasons, some for I would say the state growth or whatever. Imagine there's a statistic picture there for state contentious budget lines where ad hoc chartered plane alone is costing 400 million naira, and this that's for Lagos State. We have Lagos Rail Mass costing about 218 billion naira, where we have bulletproof SUV for COS going for 440.75 million naira, and for Benue government, I think that's for 2 billion naira vehicle for self and for official use, and resident registration agency going for 7.99 billion naira, and we have fragrance. That's the one that
was the most
raised,
intriguing one.
yes, fragrance, and of course rechargeable fan, I think,
Yeah,
Fragrance,
there was rechargeable fan.
yes.
There was rechargeable fan that cost a lot.
Fragrance going for 7.475 million naira. And as for Oyo, talking about purchasing of 55 fire extinguisher, it went for 43.5 million. If you divide 55 by 43, you wonder where they got their own fire extinguisher. I don't know whether it's Hades that gave them. You understand?
Let's
So
make
this,
let's
this will really
let's
quench.
let's make a case for these spendings. Do you think that people now overblow their charges when they know it is a government agency or so that is buying these things?
Well, I feel it's a two-way thing. You understand? Both parties have their reasons and a reason to blame them. In the sense that, okay, I'm selling fire extinguisher, let's say 10,000, and I know this is a government official that is going to buy, and I know he's not going to write 10,000. I know he's going to write 200,000.
That's where
Why will I write 10,000? Based on the fact that most of the times, for the fact that they are buying, they have places or shops that they usually patronize. Now these shops are aware of what is to be, so they usually inflate even on the receipts. So if I'm selling 10,000 for you, if the initial price is 10,000, and I know I'm selling to you, and you would want me to write on the receipt 500,000, then why will I sell it to you 10,000, knowing the fact that you did not collect 10,000 to buy it? You collected 500,000. In that sense, I'll go for 100,000. Let me keep the 90,000 while you take the 400,000.
So this is happening from both ways.
Yes, that's why I said every angle has their own reason. And aside that, we all know there are contractors who are in charge of making all this. Now the contractors knew the fact that if they get the contract, there is need for them to give the procurement officer something.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So in that same regard, they will inflate. So at the tail end of it, you find out that everybody is implicated one way or the other. There's little or less rather corruption in all that. You can hardly find a sector where everything will run smoothly. I'm not saying that there isn't any, but you can hardly find. And in most cases, those sectors that usually say, no, I will deal with it fair and square, just as these, you find out that those places, they hardly allow any need to purchase anything for them, because I know if I should give you 50 million to go and do something, you won't give me my own share. So what's the point of me giving you that contract? So that's why I said hardly. Anyway, that's for the reckless huge legacy debts. From the Guardian newspaper, and we have caustic retirement speeches reflective of discontent in judiciary. We have concerns over Tinubu's flurry of appointments reversal. All that from the Guardian for today. Appeal court sacks Plateau governor, asks INEC to withdraw certificate of return. We also have Magu breaks silence after 4 years X-ray corruption war. I don't know what just happened in the case of Magu. It's just we've usually had other level of cases that we usually suppress the previous one, that you just forget what's happening, what happened, what is to be, and
Magu
then
has stayed.
we are not imagine we are not done with the case of Magu. There's a case of Bauer. Then you wonder when if care is not taken, another one will come. We're not done with the previous one. We're not done with the first one, the second one, the third one. That's how the whole thing will keep piling up. In another sense, waste of the judiciary time. Now, moving forward, the Daily Sun, still for Monday, being the 20th day of November 2023. The Daily Sun, the voice of the nation. Tinubu dragged to court over INEC appointments. We have a budget syrup. 34 CSOs accuse president of naming loyal APC members as rec, asks court to set aside appointments. I feel it's there are some things that we just can't do away with. Anyway, let me say less on that. We are unaware of Supreme Court Justices nomination list. That is coming from NJC there, where inaugurates 58 new SANs by November 27th. Well, that is for the Sun, and also currency in circulation hits new high near 3 trillion naira mark. You can find more of those from the Daily Sun for Monday. You can find most of those stories there. Now, next paper is This Day newspaper, and we have Appeal Court nullifies Mufwang's election, declares Nantawe a winner. Even if there is nothing, somebody will reason there is something. Imagine all the cases are going in favor of the APC, the APC, the APC.
Most of the cases are.
I'm usually neutral regarding all this. Like, it's the same case. If the court says that PDP wins, APC will complain. The court says APC wins, PDP will complain. But in this case, the court is just saying APC, APC. It makes me wonder if the judiciary is really being liberal as it's supposed to be.
The case with Plateau is so disheartening, especially for the people of Plateau, because we can remember the jubilation in the whole of Plateau State when Mufwang won. Because you could see that this is clearly taking the will of the people, because it's not a matter of numbers. It's not a matter of whether he didn't win according to the numbers. So for some reason you wonder, is the judiciary interfering in democracy and the will of the people? So, just too much.
So it's in this case, it's not about majority wins.
It's not about the majority wins.
It's not about majority wins.
So you wonder if the will of the people holds any water in this sort of democracy that we have right now.
I think another angle that needs to be considered is who looks into the judiciary. I don't know if you understand.
I understand.
If they are the final check,
then who looks into it?
Who checks the final checkers? Understand? So that at least
because in the case of what happened in Kano, because I know we'll get to that story as the week newspapers progresses, because I was just thinking, okay, this is going to go to the apex court, as the people in Kano State have said that they will be there. Someone on the street said they would die there, they will lose their blood there until something is done.
Which we pray not.
Yeah, which we pray not. But we're now saying, who then checks into, because that is almost the highest court that we have.
Imagine.
If we go to that place and the judgment is upheld as it was in the appellate court, who questions anything? Nobody does.
Imagine that the highest court, as you said, is claiming typo error. Imagine. All right. Still for This Day newspaper, Asset Development Shell pulls out of IOC's accord with NNPC demands more waivers. Where NNPC pledges to deliver values to stakeholders, begs Innovative Company Award. Well, you can find more of those stories from the This Day newspaper. And moving forward, the Vanguard, I think maybe I think that's the size of. Okay, Vanguard, still for Monday. Rumble in judiciary over nomination of justices. We also have declining inflation, declining demand triggers 20% fall in food beverage production. And I think that's about date for Monday.
Day.
Maybe help us with Tuesday.
All right, so let's go straight to newspaper headlines for Tuesday, the 21st, of November, and we begin with Nigerian News Direct. And the major story there says Lagos government replies Doherty justifies expenditure of Blue Line vehicle purchases and orders. And it says that Sanwo-Olu argues it completed Blue Line despite paucity of funds. That's from News Direct. That was a controversial conversation in the past week in the government. And some news on subsidy removal. Federal government ends 1 trillion naira revenue in 4 months. That's coming in from Wale Edron. And Ogun flags of second phase of 1 billion grant to MSMEs. And NIMASA, Nigerian Navy, inaugurate joint committee on blue economy. That's coming in from News Direct. And in other story there, Adeleke bags most outstanding governor of the year award at National Cooperative Awards. Our dancing governor. He seems to be, like it has said here, the most outstanding governor of the year, and that's from Nigerian News Direct for Tuesday.
It's interesting how it turns out that way amidst all the chaos that he has had ever since he entered office. Unlike other governors that had a smooth run without any much legal
there was a lot of back
here
and
and
forth.
there and all that. Yes,
Sack here.
at least he did pull through, and it's been acknowledged.
And he's working, and the people of the state are really happy for him as their governor. And like one thing I know, we took the story some time back that was really remarkable with him. He's one of the first government officials, let me not say governor, one of the first government officials, politicians that has taken up projects from past governments and continued. I think that was really, if you ask me, very humbling, because I think it is a case of pride that makes a new government come in and you just make nothing of past projects that should continue for the betterment of the people and the nation, and especially towards the fact that that is wastage of funds.
Yes.
If you just keep projects and just have abandoned projects up and down. So let's move on to the next paper, which is the Daily Sun. The Daily Sun newspaper for Tuesday. And the major story there, APC, opposition parties on war path over courts judgments. And here it says the ruling party plotting to turn Nigeria into a one-party state. This is coming from NNPP. And you wonder what really is the difference if we move from this party to it's just about who is in power. And APC responds and says you are wrong. It says APC that snatches, grabs and run agenda. It's to take over democracy. This is coming from Atiku. And still on the Daily Sun, some story again on the subsidy removal. Federal government records over 1 trillion naira monthly revenue inflow, says the minister. I think that's Wale Edron. So we hope that these monies that were in quote saving from the subsidy removal, let's see what good use it's been put into.
Let's hope they don't buy hand sanitizer
with it, right?
And rechargeable fan with it.
Should we say we have lost hope, because we might see those kind of things happen again with whatever.
We know it will happen, but let it not happen big, like big. Understand when you hear ridiculous amounts being used for ridiculous things. So we just hope that at least it reduces.
Let's reduce, because I think we're at the point where, as Nigerians now, we're okay that these things will happen. But whilst those things are happening, please do something for the common man too, because it was saddening to see that in the supplementary budget, right, that has been going through the processes now, the wages for civil servants was dropped by 100 billion. When you have government saving in trillion and you have increments, you still have the car budget for the first lady and all of that still there, and they are and still
wonder,
being defended.
There are people that are out there that have been one issue or the other, but you find out that those that already have, they are still pushing or pumping more.
Pushing and pumping more to those that have. It's a case of to who has more. Let's not take that out of context. That so who has more is given. Alright, so let's move on to the Daily Trust newspaper for the same Tuesday, and the major story there says Western democracy not working for Africa. This was a statement by former President Olusegun Obasanjo that brought about a lot of criticism and backlash, that this statement should not be coming from people like you who birthed democracy into Nigeria. I'm talking of the Daily Trust newspaper. So on Daily Trust, the major story, Western democracy, take it again, not working for Africa, says Obasanjo, and Nigerians gradually losing faith, says Atiku. There's no trust between leaders and followers. That's fire me and politicians' attitude is the problem, says Lamido. I think this is some constructive, and ex-president lacks moral ground to pontificate on democracy. This is coming from Sislak. I think everybody else had things to say, but it's hard to punch holes in a government when you are the person in power. So definitely the APC were going to come at President Olusegun Obasanjo for that comment and remark. All right, still on the Daily Sun, the window news there says Sanwo-Olu under fire over 118 million naira vegetables and Tinubu's portraits.
Imagine how much?
111 million on vegetables. For what we just said now, I don't think when you go to market too, the market women know that you are coming from the State House.
Yep.
Or they don't know you're coming from the Senate. So I know there will always be defense of we're not just talking about this food doesn't just land in the dining table of the governor or whoever, but we're talking the aides and they are this, and you will ask yourself, are these people not paid salaries? Why are you feeding them? Because it means we should begin to do that all over. Federal government colleges, federal universities, you feed your staff even after you pay them salaries, because I see no reason why you are paying your workers salaries, huge amount of salaries, way above the minimum wage that civil servants are receiving, and you are feeding them, because that is the defense that they will make for all of this. But I think it is an outrageous amount of money to see being spent in this early administration. And portraits. And Tinubu's portrait. Yes, and Tinubu's portrait. I think that's unimaginable to happen. All right, so on other story, 110 million Nigerian children at risk of climate change, says UNICEF. So now moving on to the next paper, Nigerian Tribune. And the major story there says Western liberal democracy not working in Africa. This was a statement by former President Olusegun Obasanjo. All right, and it says again, the APC set to take over Plateau Assembly from PDP. And CBN postponed MPC meeting again. And another story there, appeal court affirms Alia as Benue governor. And still from the Nigerian Tribune, Supreme Court to hear Lagos Ekiti suit against federal government and 34 other states over lottery control march. I wonder what this debate is about. Who is handling lottery in Nigeria? Whether it's the federal government or is the state government? We have other pressing matters, don't we?
Seriously.
We have other pressing matters, and some quarters have come out to say that it is because they are trying to control, what's the name? Is it, what do they call it now when people are addicted to lottery and all of that, but I think like we have other pressing matters that they should be tussled over who handles what. All right, so moving on to other stories. Obaseki to lead Delta Ondo Ekiti to repurchase shares and reorganize BEDC to solve electricity crisis. And that story can be found on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. And this story is on almost every newspaper on this day, still talking on the subsidy removal. The federal government records over 1 trillion naira monthly revenue inflow, says Wale Edun. Looking forward to how those monies will be put to good use. So moving on to the Guardian newspaper, still for Tuesday. It says government considers new MPC members as uncertainty rocks the economy. Now there's been talks of these meetings holding. Some have been due to non-attendance and all, but we need to get on moving with policies, economic policies. So I think that is critical that meeting and the new members are held. And now moving on to other stories, still on the Guardian newspaper, Nigeria loses 1.4 trillion naira yearly to contract scams. An institute affirms, talking about contract scams. We know how there are a lot of scams and abandoned projects under the NDDC. Want to note, because if you hear contracts in trillions, it's likely where they're coming from. The federal government earns 1 trillion monthly from subsidy removal, says the minister. And you can still find the story on the comments of President Olusegun Obasanjo, as he says why democracy is not working for Africa by Obasanjo. I think it's okay for us to just listen to what he has to say and maybe take, because he has been in the business of democracy, if we can call it business, for quite some time. So I think we should listen to him if over time he has had, a change of heart as to what democracy that leads us to where we're headed. So 65-year-old landlord bags life imprisonment for sexual assault. Right, that and more stories you can find on the Guardian newspaper for Tuesday. So let's move on to this day. And on this day, the window story there is talking about the president's trip to Berlin. It said in Berlin, Tinubu pushes for investment in Nigeria's power, rail and transport sector. There's the window story for this day newspaper for Tuesday. If we recall that our president made that trip. So he tells investors highly skilled Nigerians are country's greatest assets. Even if I can pick your brain on this, would you be investing in Nigeria's power sector and rail transport?
Yes, why not?
As a foreign investor, are you guaranteed of money back in the power sector of Nigeria?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's all about restructuring and all that. So if you invest, definitely it has worked in other places. Why won't it work here? You understand? So if one is investing, that means he has certain percentage, certain share. So he has a certain say. So if that's the case, then why not?
Okay. I'll have my reservations anyway, but let's move on to other stories. And this is coming from our immediate past president, President Muhammad Buhari. He says, I did my best and not sure if expected results were achieved. We're still on this day newspaper. And, we expect these kinds of comments after your administration is over. He admits that his administration must have been hijacked and explains why Naira redesign policy was introduced. That's a story that you need to listen to. That's still coming from the This Day newspaper for Tuesday. And let me take the final story here. Falana, it's dangerous for judiciary to sanction 165,000 voters for electoral officers' mistakes. And it says a 6th review of judgments sacking 3 opposition governors, and PDP asks CJN to probe ruling party's claim of controlling judiciary. That's for the This Day newspaper for Tuesday. And so let's move on to the next paper, The Punch. And the lead story there on The Punch says reps probe 447 billion naira COVID-19 spending and summons 83 MDAs.
I feel they should have done this like last year or so. I think they should have. Anyway, it's still not late, but I was expecting that to be done last year. And
Because it's too late to retrieve, right?
No, it's not too late to retrieve. It could be too late to retrieve, but it could not be too late to prosecute.
No,
This
yeah.
time. So, but regardless, I was hoping that after the COVID, at least a year or two, it will be looked into.
All right, so still on that story, said lawmakers, we're still on the punch, said lawmakers allege mismanagement of funds from 2020 to 2022 and demand accountability. And panel plans 6-day grilling of MDA's chief account, finance, and procurement officers. I think it's about time, like I said, it's better late than never. And still on the punch, Obaseki's deputy joins government race and plans campaign. So that's finally out in the open, his quest to run for governorship. We hope he has the backing of his principal right now. So any suspends World Bank's arbitration on OPL 245 disputes. That story can be found on page 20 of the Punch. And presidency fumes and tackles Obasanjo over democracy comments. Well, we're not expecting the ruling party to agree with his comment, because if it favors your government, you don't want to hear someone make such statements. All right, so in other news, Tinubu woos G20 investors and FARC mates over multiple taxation. All right, that's and more you can find on the Punch newspaper for Tuesday. And now let's take the last paper, which is the Vanguard. The Vanguard, the major story there says unease in financial markets as CBN's MPC meeting fails to hold, and some reason it can aggravate economic uncertainty. Muda Yusuf says, and better a new date rather than leave it hanging. That's still on the Vanguard. And some political story there says APC's snatch, grab and run agenda inimical to democracy. This says Atiku. And economic recovery. Editors confirm urges federal government to reduce deafening anxiety amongst Nigerians. I like the use of the deafening anxiety amongst Nigerians. All right, then, and still on the president's trip, Tinubu to German investors. Nigeria has the ingredients to become a modern economy. President there is still selling Nigeria to the world in quest of foreign investment. And democracy has failed in Africa, says Obasanjo. And some subsidy story. That same story, federal government records over 1 trillion monthly revenue, says Wale Edun. And that's all for newspaper headlines from Tuesday, Vanguard.
Alright, we'll look at the one for Wednesday, being the 22nd day of November, and as usual, remember you can drop by any vendor close to you, get a copy of it, and find out more about that. Find our story more interesting. Now, the Daily Trust for Wednesday is what we'll be looking at next. Confusion over contradictions in CTC of appeal court judgment sacking Kano government. Kano governor rather. It's typographical error. Gawuna's counsel, APC chieftain, are saying that. And also only Supreme Court will interpret it, says Governor Yusuf's lawyer. I feel that mistake is costly.
It's costly.
It's costly because it will generate a negative impact. Imagine it has already generated.
It has generated a negative
because
impact.
the Yusuf team are bound to have a demonstration tomorrow. Same situation on Saturday. Same situation with the Gawuna's team, also putting in place measures on how they will
tackle the issue. Like you're saying, what's the word now? Who checkmates the judiciary at that level? But that, because it feels like all we can say is just, or we can just say what we want to say. Is up to them to listen if they listen. But mistakes at that level, I think it's quite unacceptable.
All right, moving forward, still on daily trust. This is interesting. Ocean governor spends 2 billion naira on meals, welfare, runs office with 6 billion naira in 3 months. Just 3 months.
We appreciate the transparency.
And we're giving him 4 years.
We appreciate the transparency. Anyway.
If he decides to come out again, we're giving him 8 years. So if three months he spends 6 billion.
We blame it on inflation.
It's so interesting.
Well, yeah, we blame it on inflation. So that means it's because if the state of the economy is going is anything to go by, inflation rates are going to go high, and we know what food inflation is saying in those parts of the country. So you can expect that as time goes on, it's expected that the expenditure will keep on going high.
Keep on increasing.
Yeah.
That amount could solve whatever issue AXU is having. That same amount can solve a health issue in once.
Why are they even eating like that, Stephen?
Just for meals.
What's the problem?
Let's not talk about furniture. Let's not talk
Yes.
about electricity. Let's not talk about. Anyway. Kano stands still for Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf on arrival from Abuja. That's one of the top stories from the Daily Trust for Wednesday. Moving forward, we'll be looking at the Punch newspaper, where it says state spends 1.7 trillion naira on trips, meals, others borrow 988 billion naira. Now, my sister was like, this is the interesting part. That's they're borrowing, like they've spent, and you usually spend what you have. But they are so confident that they spent, finish the amount that was possibly there, you understand, decide to borrow. And we are the ones to pay. And I know you didn't know about what they use the money for,
No.
but you're definitely going to pay as an agent. That's the sad aspect.
I'm going to pay for it.
That's the sad aspect of it.
We'll be paying for it.
Well, we have states borrow 988.48 billion naira from banks, others in 9 months, and governors get over 87 billion naira for security votes. Ondo denies 7.3 billion naira diversion. Now, one interesting aspect also is this thing has been running for years. It's just this time it went out public. But every government came with this fashion. It's just a continuous process. Anyway, ghetto in paradise. Abuja peoples learn in shed, endure dump orders. People have channeled the money for such things.
Yeah. United States.
Insecurity, military blames forex, demands special court for terrorists. And Nigeria, Germany signs $500 million renewable energy gas deal. And federal government revokes 1,603 mining licenses vowed to sanitize sector. You can find more of those stories from the Punch newspaper for Wednesday. And moving forward, let's look at the next paper, still for Wednesday, leadership, where it has service chiefs passing the buck over rising insecurity. Accused political class, judiciary of not doing enough. I say they just set suspects free. We are ready to join military in fighting terrorists, and that's according to the police there. Appeal court affirms Fintri as Adamawa governor. And Maswa unveils creative economic plans, shows 10% GDP contribution. Non-payment of service fees. Federal government revokes 1,603 mining licenses. That is from the Leadership newspaper. Moving forward, a Daily Sun, Ohanize, Afenifere Middle Belt Forum press for state police. And insecurity, judiciary not helping terror war. That's from the military there. We have a picture of the president with German energy investors of the G20 conference in Berlin, Germany. Well, you can find more of those stories from the Daily Sun newspaper. Nigerian election product of manipulation, cancer destroying democracy. And that is from APC Chieftain there. And to the next paper, we'll be looking at Vanguard newspaper still for Wednesday, the 22nd day of November 2023. And the top story there says, why insecurity is not going away yet. And that's from Vanguard, and that's from the service chiefs there. Rivers crisis, 2 factional assembly lawmakers hold separate sitting. And as governor, FCTA officials gave me fake CFO. That is from Wiki there. When I saw this news, I was like, people have mind. You know, this is the governor.
Yeah.
Understand? You know, he's buying this land. But you still have that guts.
To give him
That means nobody is spared.
Nobody
Understand?
It goes around with them.
If somebody of such class
Again,
will have fake
who then are we?
civil servants, grade 12, 11, whatever grade you are, not spared. Well, that's a story from Wiki there. Brutally frank, Nigeria doomed without restructuring and federalism. That is from Clark Adebanjo, Siodu, Anya Akinyemi, Tomi, and others. Nigeria, Germany signed $500 million renewable energy gas deal. Pray they don't use that money to buy rechargeable fan and
Fragrance.
yes. Moving forward to the next paper, we'll be looking at Nigerian Tribune. Insecurity service chiefs blame judiciary for freeing suspects. And from that, we have exposed how warden collude with Boko Haram suspects. Expressed concern over activities of Simon Ekpa in Southeast, calls for special court to prosecute insurgents, and I inherited a battered police force. That is from the IGP. Is there any other person assuming office that is wouldn't blame his predecessor?
Nobody. So that's why we're hoping, because now everybody is obviously blaming the predecessors. So we hope that with this blame now, they do what's right, at least to some humanly acceptable level, so that when the next government comes in, they don't blame them as much as they are blaming the past government.
And yet they'll do far worse. They could rather, let me not say they will, than their predecessors. We all know how the economy has been going down, but still the predecessors are the ones who are being blamed.
They are being blamed.
Yes.
And are also taking the blame. Like Buhari has said that he believes his government was hijacked.
But before then, he said he blamed the previous government.
The previous government.
Now, Tinubu is blaming the previous government as the Buhari's government. Just because things are going not too good.
And he inherited, a fallen state of the nation.
All right, still for Nigerian Tribune, where we have PDP lost local government poll in Ogun because I rejected plots to bribe police. and INEC. That is from Obasanjo there. And Nigerian targets $10 billion ship charter market as Oyetola meets marine and blue economy stakeholders. Reps approve $73.96 as oil benchmark for 2024 fiscal year. Lagos government Dean Finance Sanwo-Olu's legal battle, and that is from the commissioner there. And the next paper, The Guardian, admit heavy dockets electoral cases overwhelm judges justice system. So that's for Guardian for Wednesday. And we have APC warned of democratic cancer as NNPP backs Atiku on merger. If I feel this should have been something they've done even before the election, not now, because anyway.
There've been talks of a merger before, but the Labour Party clearly going to happen.
Because they felt.
So also yes, they felt they had
a chance.
They had a chance. I think everyone felt they had a chance.
Everyone had a chance.
And
even those that got 100 and something.
They all felt they had a chance. The problem I foresee with if there is any form of coalition or measure among these parties is also for power even within.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who now emerges as the final victor?
And then you now start
if
seeing.
You merge.
Yeah. You now begin to see factions within a party.
Yes. Imagine Atiku, Kwankwaso. Let's take for instance Peter Obi agrees. You now wonder who will come out to be their flag bearer.
Yeah.
In as much as we've seen that before happened, that's how we got the APC.
The APC, yeah.
But this one is just completely different. Let's wait and see how it turns out. Still for The Guardian, Rivers Assembly crisis persists as factions hold separate sittings. Confusion as appeal court certified judgment upholds Governor Abba Yusuf's election. That is for The Guardian newspaper. And finally, New Telegraph, where we have Nigerians expect magic from ill-motivated police force, says IGP. And service chiefs seeks more funding. Good governance curbs insecurity from the CDS and issue executive order on state local government police to strengthen national police. I find it very devastating.
Sorry, you took that story on who is that now? The IG that's where they also saying Nigerians are expecting magic.
Yes.
See, this is the thing. I would tell people Nigerians are not expecting magic, but you make magician level promises, and you don't want us to
Yes.
take you on your word. We would expect you to perform magic.
Yeah.
So if you come up and give us a roadmap of with your available resources, what you can do, then we would wait patiently until whatever you're doing goes around. But you come out, I remember him coming out to say he feels like a lion and he feels like a tiger, ready to bite and ready to do what. So we expect that you will behave like a lion and a tiger. And you understand, that is what we expect. So you cannot now come and tell us that we're expecting magic when you told us how you are going to you had expressed how you will behave. So we would expect that with such energy you have done your homework, so we expect that kind of magical behavior to follow. So I think they should stop blaming Nigerians that we expect magic. You give us magic level promises, so we would follow you like that.
I don't know, maybe he didn't expected it to.
He never expected it to go like this. He never expected the level of what he was going to meet.
On that seat.
Yeah, he never expected it. So,
all right, still for New Telegraph, where we have October price of cooking gas soared by 8.9%. And also Clark, Adebanjo, others insist on restructuring 2014 confab executive. And Senate session turns rowdy as PDP takes 3 minority leadership seats. Well, and finally, from the New Telegraph, federal government moves to strengthen border security. Well, that is about the size of it for Wednesday, the 20
All right.
for 2020 2023 November 23rd.
All right, so let's move on to newspaper headlines for Thursday, the 24th of November, and we begin with the Daily Sun. And the major story there says Osun, Edo, Anambra, Kano top 2023 electoral offenders list. I guess this is comprising of people moving with ballot boxes and people running away with things. And it says 187 lawyers, 16 senior advocates to begin prosecution of suspects, and 1,076 arrested in 35 states. That's coming from the Daily Sun. And in other news, the federal government moves to unlock 300 billion in deed capital via land reforms. You can find that on page 23 of the Daily Sun. The former CBN governor Emefiele gets 300 million bail. And in other news, Kano Gober NNPP protests and urges NJC to review court rulings. That's thing that's still stemming from the controversies of the CTC documents. All right, moving on to the next paper. Let's move on to Vanguard. And Vanguard, the window story there says federal government to drive tax through enforcement of laws. I think we already have laws that back that, but I guess nobody respects our laws. So let's see what more enforcement of laws the federal government is willing to put in place. And Tinubu says why I deserve to be listed in a Guinness World Record. That was a trending story this past week. You can find it on the page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper and find out why your president should be listed in the Guinness World Record. And in other stories, a Papa gridlock. Truckers defy Sanwo-Olu's directive, return, and they block roads. Does anybody listen to anybody in this country? In other news, ex-CBN governor Emefiele gets 300 million naira bail. All right, so let's read the major story here. It says, Kano, we stand by our verdict sacking Governor Yusuf, says the appeal court. And NNPP files appeal at Supreme Court, wants NJC to probe the appeal court's judgment, insists that CTC confirms its candidate Yusuf won an appeal. That's coming from the Vanguard newspaper. And let's take a little international news. In the Israel-Hamas conflict has gone from war to terrorism, says Pope Francis. You can find that on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper for Thursday, the 24th of November. And let's take news from the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust newspaper for Thursday says missing radio Thor. NSCDC takes responsibility and begins investigation. Even how does a radio Thor get missing?
Same way a vessel gets missing.
The same way a vessel. you can imagine that a vessel will probably
same way a vessel will
you know what it
same
is
way
too?
a satellite goes missing.
That's the same way a radio Thor
And
gets
the same
missing.
way a termite eats a tractor. Those are all
We have peculiar cases over here
seriously,
to how things
particularly
are.
in Nigeria.
Yeah,
when
and it
has
has
to
backing.
do with public properties.
There are ways that they just get carted away
The
with
same
that we
way
can't
that
explain.
snake swallowed.
A monkey does things.
Yes.
That's how a radio Thor gets missing. I'm just imagining the effort that it takes for you to
Still.
steal a radio Thor,
And
nobody around can.
say, okay, this.
Even there is no way that you don't have eyewitnesses to that kind of an incident. But anyway, let's take other stories. Osun government knocked for failing to hold cabinet meetings. They were still on the Daily Trust, said how army and police clash led to inspector's death in Adamawa. That was a very not so nice story to see that the military and the police clashed in Adamawa State in the past week that caused the loss of someone's life. And so let's take the major story. The appeal court insists on Governor Yusuf's sack and admits errors in certified judgments. The protest rocks Kano. Hope that doesn't escalate further than it has already. And NNPP approaches Supreme Court, rejects request for CTC retrieval. And some other tragic story there says 25 killed in Niger road crash. And take some business news there says Jais Bank appoints Haruna Musa as MD and CEO. Congratulations to him. And Nasara Guba dispute. Appeal court delivers judgments. You know who that goes in favor of? That's still news from the Daily Trust. Ondo in coma as Akeredolu hangs on to power. Well, is he still ruling from Ibadan? We don't know if he's still, because I think that's what the story is. He's still ruling from Ibadan. The people are demanding, where is our governor? But
maybe that's the second state capital.
Yeah, that's the second state capital. Yes, I don't know why. Does he feel threatened going back? Does he feel that there's something on his seat that he doesn't want to go and govern from there? But then again, we know that most of our governors, they govern from Abuja. Yeah, they all govern from Abuja. So I just wonder, maybe
go back to their state to see their some of their
family. When allocation comes, that's when they go back and see there. They all govern from here. You go to other states, you're looking for governor, something happens. Why do you think when there's any crisis somewhere, there's always because the governor is not present? So I guess that is what has given him the. Anyway, let's see how they follow up on that story. So let's move on to the Nigerian Tribune, still for Thursday. And the story there, major story there, still on the sack of the Kano governor. Appeal court cites clerical error in CTC as youths protest in Kano. The day that we would take responsibility for our mistakes in this country. We're looking forward to that. The industrial court restrains Osun judges from taking up acting CJ position. And the police officer killed as army and police clash in Adamawa and the CP fumes. And a Mefile story, alleged 1.21 billion procurement fund, court grants Mefile 300 million naira bill. And that's for, that's about what we can take from the Nigerian Tribune for Thursday. Yeah, so let's move on to The Guardian. The Guardian newspaper, and the major story there says poor funding raises concerns for 270 new private varsities. Poor funding for private varsities. That's an interesting take. You can find that on page 6. We hope that the private varsities are not blaming the government for poor funding.
The economy.
Yeah.
It's
affecting everyone. So maybe you're having less people now applying to private universities.
People are having problems now going for the public universities because the prices are high.
Yeah.
Imagine the
prices of the private.
It's
that is much to be concerned about. All right, so let's take all the stories still on the Guardian newspaper. Tension in Kano over Guba verdict as Akeredolu Ayedetiwa crisis rocks also in Ondo State. And in other news, Senate laments cyber threats to digital economy. $500 million yearly loss. Losing money. Yeah, and on River Story, Governor Fubara opens 2 world-class health facilities. The governor that was almost ousted is doing some work in River State. All right, let's move on to Nigerian News Direct. Let's take a few stories there. Federal government targets $500 million annual revenue from cyberspace. That's interesting. Say, as Senate decries loss to cybercrime, moves to amend Cybercrime Act 2015. And it says that FAC spills 906 billion naira between federal government, states, and local governments. I know the local governments have been crying of being underfunded. Say Makinde assigns 3 ministries to Oyo Deputy Governor, and Oshun Judiciary workers declare indefinite strike. As the Jusun declare indefinite strike. You can find those stories on the Nigerian News Direct for Thursday. Let's take this last story. Lagos graduates 4,592 from skill acquisition programs. Self-empowerment, therefore, some residents of Lagos State. And our final paper for the Thursday is The Punch. Still on the Kano poll controversy in the Punch newspaper, the story there says police and NNPP protesters clash and more cloud over judgments. The courts and APC blame clerical error. NNPP, a Labour Party, insists judgment was doctored. That seems more likely as the case. And Niger junta sues Tinubu and ECOWAS court rules on December 7th. Our eyes have moved from Niger for quite some time now. And fresh Naira scarcity hits Kano, Sokoto, Edo, and others. May we not return to those days of lack of cash. And federal government slashes wage award by 100 billion naira, and Labour kicks against that development. And Senate passes MTEF to probe tax waivers under Buhari. The last story there, Fintiri intervenes as soldiers kill inspector in Adamawa State. Thankful for his swift action. And the Punch newspaper, that's the last paper we'll be taking for newspaper headlines for Thursday. Over to you, Livin.
All right. For Friday, we'll start with Punch newspaper. Friday being the 24th day of November 2023. Top story there says NNPCL ends fuel import December 2024. Projects 4.5 trillion naira revenue. From that, fuel importation shipping costs port levies will stop, say Ipman NNPCL boss. And Kerry insists on December deadline for PH refinery repairs. Speaker demands privatization. And NAV decorates 12 combat pilots, vows tough time for terrorists. The next paper, which is the Daily Sun. Federal government orders prison warders probe over Boko Haram inmate. That is from the Daily Sun. There also federal government to channel $1.5 billion donor funds into that 6 SAPs. Target 17.5 million jobs, 100,000 farmers. The WHO gives governors to sign health compact agreement. More of that story from the Daily Sun. And moving forward, we have the Guardian newspaper still for Friday, the 24th day of November. High Hope X harsh environment, Hubble industrial revival jobs. And also Jagab, Abachir, others reflect on INEC 2023 elections amid fresh appeal court verdict. To find those stories from the Guardian, we have Reps panel probes 62 billion naira HIV/AIDS intervention funds. And for international news, Israel-Hamas war death toll of Palestinian 14,200, says ambassador. And moving forward to the next paper, Nigerian News Direct. The top story says Guba election appeal court judgment spikes controversy. And again, Ogun State leads in adoption of CNG. The CBN makes upward price review of Nigerian treasury bills. We also have 15-year-old Onaro Adeze emerges winner of UBA Foundation EC competition. Good to hear. And for Vanguard newspaper, we have NBS report families spend more as inflation persists. And that's for Vanguard, still for Friday, 24th day of November. And still on Vanguard, Northern Elders Express concern over conduct of judiciary. Northern Elders express concern over conduct of judiciary. Kano Yoruba community begs Tinubu Obasanjo to intervene in political crisis. And we have roadmap to tackle challenges in the education sector, and that is from Tinubu there. And Nasara Appeal Courts reverses sack of Governor Sule. And, Boko Haram federal government probes prison warders alleged connivance with terrorists. And that is for Vanguard newspaper. And for our last paper for Friday, Daily Trust. And still for Friday, war on Gaza, Israeli-Hamas ceasefire begins today. And we have an interesting picture there. Also, 50 Israeli hostages, 150 Palestinian for release. And Israeli forces launch fresh attack ahead truce. In Nigeria, 7 others reject selective application of international laws. And West Israel not ready for two-state solution. And that's from Palestinian envoy there. Well, I think that's about size of what we have for the summary of the newspaper headlines that we have for the week on the New Dawn. As we usually put it, drop by any very close to you, get a copy, and it's also on their e-platforms, as the online platforms, and you can get more details of those headlines that we just gave out. This is still, of course, the New Dawn. Up next, we'll be having an exclusive with a guest who's already here in the studio on the New Dawn. So do stand by, and of course we'll be having that segment up next.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on Viewer Exclusive. Now we're going to be delving right into the conversation, and joining me now live in the studio to help us make sense of some critical matters that are ongoing in the nation as much as we can exhaust in this time is Mr. Ernest Ogbegbo, an accountant and a business coach. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you for having me.
Very good to have you. Very good to have you again. So let's go straight into the matters. A lot of matters that we'll have to get your views and help us to make sense of these things, if at all there is any sense in them. Let's begin by asking what your views are on a certain matter. The elections, the general elections, the PDP's candidate for the past general elections in person of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has been making a lot of speeches, but one that has caught the attention of Nigerians and other party members has been him asking for a coalition of other parties in order that we not have a one-party state of affairs in the nation. So we don't even know whether he's asking for a coalition or he's asking for a merger of all these parties. So help us make sense of what your take is on that. And are we actually moving on towards having a one-party system in the nation?
Thank you for having me. But trying to make sense of what is going on in our polity is a challenge of its own. Atiku Abubakar calling for sort of a working agreement with other opposition political parties. For him, it is so that you prevent the APC from becoming the only party. I want to recall also that when PDP was in power between 1999 and 2015, it was the same rhetoric that we're hearing from those who were in opposition then, who are now in power, saying that the PDP was working on turning the political space into a one-party state. Why do they keep repeating that? It is because of the nature of politics and the politicians we have in Nigeria. They are what you call any government in power, AGIP. So those professional politicians, I like to call them, have no ideology. They have no personal moral standard as per where they just go anywhere and everywhere that there is power, and with power comes money, influence, and all of that. So they all gravitate towards that power, and whoever is holding that power becomes their immediate personal person, as to put it that way. So what you see is, because they don't have ideology, because there is not even any ideological difference between the parties, they move from one to the other. Some of them, we don't know where they belong right now. You don't know whether they are in PDP or APC or Labour or anywhere. They are just everywhere and all of that. So they come with this cliche that seems to draw some people who are not very discerning, I use that in a loose sense, to get those kind of people to buy into their agenda. All in all, it's just a selfish move. I can tell you that it is not possible, and it can't happen, that Nigeria will become a one-party state, because there are still some people who have some bit of that same ideological persuasion that we talk about. There are still some people who cannot join any government in power. They believe in people? What? Yes, we do. We do. They may not. They are mostly not in power.
Exactly.
But they don't depend on power for their sustenance, for them to live. So they can stay. They can stay with what they believe in, and say what they want to say, not because it will please somebody in power. We have them. We have a few of them. They may not be in the majority among the elite, but I know we still have them.
My thinking is that if we have those people and they are not in power and they don't have quest for power, we may actually be moving into the one party state. But that aside, my thinking also is that I was of a concern that ideologies may clash, right? Political ideologies may clash if we have coalition of parties. But I think you have nullified that, because it's almost obvious that we don't even have, our parties do not have ideologies. They are not run by ideologies. But let's talk about numbers now. If it is about them being run by numbers, is that anything to go by if we have these other parties merge? Because we know that the current president in power won by about 8 million, and if we had the NNPP, the Labour Party, and PDP come together, and if they had gotten all those votes at one party, they may have. So is it just about the numbers, or we should actually even be concerned that apart from the numbers, we should actually be thinking of ideologies? And if these parties do not have ideologies, then what's the way forward? It means any party can go.
Okay, you have said a lot of things, and it's okay. Let me try to pick them and just express my opinion on them one by one. Number one, this idea of let's come together and take over power is the reason why in 2013-2014, when the idea of APC came up, and you found the then ANPP, CPC, ACN or ACN, and a fashion of APGA, they all came together and formed the APC. I saw it as a coalition of strange bedfellows, and I just knew that there was no way they were going to mix. See, today, 8 years, 9 years down the road, we can still pick these individual parties as it were then. You can still pick them from the APC today. You can identify the ACN block. You can identify the CPC block. You can identify all the other blocks. Now, okay, so you can also see that the CPC people have done their own 8 years with Buhari as their leader. Now they have handed over to the ACN part of it. ACN is taking over all the part, even though they all claim to be APC. In itself. Now, because there are no ideologies, like we have already said, people just come together. The only purpose why they are coming together is to get power. That is one. Second thing, talking about if opposition parties come together, they can take over power. I don't buy into it. A lot of people have talked to me about that coming from the 2023 elections, and if Labour Party had just worked with PDP and both of them put together, it's like 14 million votes against PDP. See, it is not just about changing who is in power. It's what are you replacing, or with whom are you replacing that person? You can't change same for same. There's no reason for that change. That's my personal opinion, that if you are going to have a change, then let it be that we are moving from the people who believe in this to the one that believe in this. You get my point?
Yes.
That is what I say. So it is not just about coming together just for the sake of grabbing power. It is who is the person. If you tell me, I may not want to just mention name. You say Buhari was not a very effective leader for 8 years. Therefore, let's come together and just remove Buhari or whatever. And I'm going to ask and replace him with who? If the person you are proposing to replace Buhari with, in my opinion, is the same as Buhari, why should I join you? Just like we have Tinubu today. Who are you presenting to replace Tinubu? If we say let's come together as a coalition just to remove power. So I say that you cannot replace same with same. You can't replace that. That doesn't work for me. Now, is it possible for all the political parties, all the opposition political parties to come together? It's not possible. There will always be opposition. Opposition is part of governance. Yeah. When we get to a point, forget about the fact that anytime opposition says something, the government, it is the job of the opposition to raise issues. The government is to come and defend. It also helps the government to think a little deeper. If all of us agree and we are all in agreement, we are all in one party, there cannot be progress. Somebody have to be checking what you are doing and suggesting ways to do it better, and also making you think about what you want to do before you do, not just going around. For example, the supplementary budget. If the opposition and other civil society group did not raise all the things that we raised concerning the supplementary budget, we would have been talking of a yacht, presidential yacht, in this economy, even though a lot of other things
are still there. And we know what they did with that yacht,
I know that now,
but at least we saw it.
At least we saw government coming to deny that no, it's not like that. It's not. If nobody said anything about it, right now, Governor Oti of Abia State has all his people all over the media and everywhere trying to defend that. Not even the budget, the report
of the mill,
and all of that is good. We are talking about it. Other people will be learning from it. Other people will say, come on, let's check. We are hearing of 7-point-something million for perfume, for this in Lagos, for whatever. We are talking about them. Why? Because the opposition is there. Opposition brings it. Because you want to, we are looking for how Nigeria can be better. And that's how it is. You know, you mentioned something about President Obasanjo talking about democracy or whatever, and all of that. That itself is a different thing entirely. I personally don't think democracy is the best form of government. For
Africa or for Nigeria? And why do you say so?
Generally, I don't think so, because the kind of democracy that we see around is just about elections. Elections after election. As we speak right now, we are already preparing for 2027
after elections. Whoever comes in power leads us in autocracy. Is that it?
No, it is that. See, it's not a popular opinion to canvass. It's not something that countries that have developed, that have moved from one level to the other, we should go and check them and see how many of them were actually developed by this brand of democracy that we are practicing. Every country that I know of that have moved from third world to second world to first world had a leader, not necessarily elected, but he had a vision. He had where he wanted to take his people. Then he had enough time to do that,
to implement.
But you see, this 4 years cycle, how much development can it really give us? So we just come, we do election, we are still in court over the last election. We are already preparing for 2027. The people that just won now are already preparing for their elections in 2027. So there is no time for them to think about the people, about governance. So whatever they are doing is in preparation, is to prepare them, put them in a position for the next election. That is why. And now, sorry.
Along your point.
Yes. My problem with Obasanjo, President Jonathan, and all of them talking about all of this is that when they had power to make some changes, what did they do? Because anybody who is in power today under this type of democracy will not want it to change. I hope you've noticed that.
Yes.
This same
that is
opposition,
why there has been some attacks on
this
him.
Same opposition, when they were in opposition, proposed a lot of structural reforms.
Yeah.
Why have we not seen them now that they for the past 8 years, going to 9 years now that they have been in power? It is now in their favor. You must now keep the status quo. You keep it like this because it profits you. How many people will come and change things that will work against them in their favor? You get? That's my point. My point is that yes, they may be making a good point, but the people who have the power to make those changes now will not do
will
it.
not want to change because it benefits
It
them. And
benefits
as long
them.
as it benefits them, it has to be there
It has to
until
be like
we move.
There has
there's
to
still
be a
lot
different way to
yeah,
change that.
to change it, not because the
No,
people
no,
in
not
power
them.
will not affect that
They will
change,
not.
even as
They
much
will-
as
they
we know
will
that.
not. They will not.
Yes, the state of affairs, we need that change right now. We'll continue this conversation with lots more to talk about. Please do stay with us. Let's go on a quick break and we'll be right back.
In this 21st century, where all the information we need is now in the palm of our hands. News from around the world, entertainment, celebrity gossip, sports, and much more. The only thing that you need is the right source.
Many thanks. It's good to know you're still there. You're still watching Viewer Exclusive on Viewer Television. I'm still in conversation live in the studio with Mr. Ernest Ogbebo, and he's giving us his analysis on state of the nation affairs. Now let's go over to okay. First, before I ask the question on the judgments, let me get your views and your take on the past of secular elections, the conduct of the elections. What's your take on those elections that were run in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi states?
My take is that, honestly speaking, on the 11th of November, that election was taking place. I didn't even give it any attention at all. Unlike maybe previous, even if it's
You had no expectations.
There was nothing to expect. Why? Because I have seen a situation where we have gone backwards in terms of development in our electoral system and all of that. So it was not surprising for me to hear later that there were pre-filled result sheets because we have seen from the 2023 general elections how impunity have taken over, how power is being used, and the people who do manipulations and all of them, they are completely in charge. They are emboldened to do even more. In 2023 general elections, I'm not sure we had the issue of pre-filled election results. There were manipulations of the result after the election. Everybody was trying to say accredited voters must be equal to the vote cast and all of that. So by the time we took all those things into the judiciary, through the judicial system, and everybody saw how all of those things were thrown away, it was like, why were we even worrying ourselves too much about accreditation on beavers compared to physical vote? It didn't matter again. And that's why you could see people filling results without minding.
So it emboldened whatever was going to happen in this off-cycle election.
And it did show. It did show. We saw in the general elections how people were stopped from accessing polling unit, and it did not matter when we went to court or when we started talking about the election. It was that those who won succeeded in making sure that other people did not come out to vote. So that once that did not be, it was not an issue for discussion. Then what did you expect? So they now took it to the next level. And so this next level is that even the people who used to gain from vote buying even lost, because they didn't need you anymore to even come and give you the 1,000, 2,000 they used to buy your vote before. They didn't need you. They just completed the result sheet.
Yeah.
Pushed it in and
2007 has been the elections that Nigerians have been saying have been the worst so far. In comparison to this, did we get worse?
I don't know whether there is
okay.
any basis of comparison, because you will say that we were
So
making,
we're not getting, we're making progress. But now we went all the way back.
All the way
so
back.
It has taken us even behind 2007.
All the way back,
all
I can tell
back.
you. All the way back. My personal opinion, like I keep saying, there is nothing. Now, what we used to talk about voter apathy and the rest of them, people not coming out to vote, and so we began to see a lot of an increase in participation from ordinary people, from the youths and all of that. With what has happened 2023 elections and the off-cycle election we just had a few weeks ago in Bayelsa, Imo, and this thing, a lot more people are now convinced that there is no need
for
participating in this process anymore.
Okay, so still on the electoral process and the matters, the judgment that was passed in Kano State, right? And we know what transpired after that, the discrepancies in the CTC document and all of that. What's your take on that? Do we think can we really make sense of that being a typographical error? And in that level, should we even expect, we know we're human, there's human error, should we even expect that we can have things like those kind of clerical errors in such a document as that?
See, we have come to a point. I will be seen as being cynical, as it were, right now, and all of that. When wrongdoings, misbehaviors stop having consequences, the society is in trouble. Incompetence, no consequence, the society is in trouble. And that is where we are. And that was my fear. I've expressed it earlier, going through the elections, tribunals and the rest, and seeing what people did, talking about the evidence you are showing that this thing was, this person did this, you are bringing it late, it didn't come on time. And I'm like, you are making bad behavior not to have consequence anymore in our society. And that is what we have. The chief registrar of that court, the appeal court, had come out to say it was a clerical error. And everybody will say, anybody can make mistake. It's a human error. My dear, there are errors that are unpardonable. By now, heads should be rolling. Somebody signed that document. The most critical part of that 67 or 68 page document is that portion. And you sign it without checking respondent, appellant, whether they have been properly matched. So what did you do? The chief judge who signed it, after it was printed and all the rest, if you couldn't even read all the other parts, I expect that you go to just that page where the verdict is and cross-check. If the clerk who prepared it, the registrar missed it, all of these people, have you heard anything?
Nothing.
Rather, they will release another one and say, this is the correct one. And we would move on. Square pegs in round holes. You may even be a round peg in a round hole, but this is an error that in sane societies, you are not going to wait. Whether it was your subordinate who did it or whatever, but you are the one who signed it, you honorably, if your resignation will mean anything. But in Nigeria here, nothing. It's just going to go on.
Do you think that the judiciary is compromised? And do you think that they are interfering a lot in our democracy?
You see also, when you say the truth about an issue, it doesn't matter how many times you are asked. You don't even need to remember what you said before. Because what you said is true, when you are asked 1,000 times, you are not going to think, okay, what was my response to this question? You will just say it.
Yes.
Now, but when you have manipulated your answer before, you need to keep a record of it so that when you are asked again, you can remember what you said. In this country, sorry, on a lighter note, in this country, I have seen people during interviews that have so manipulated their age that there is no room for primary school education between when they were born now and their age and when they got their degree, which they cannot change the date of those certificates. So you read. Then you have to always remember the year that you have quoted as your birthday, birth month or year, and all of that. But if it were true, you don't need to think. Anytime they ask you, you say the same thing. That's what has happened to the judiciary. Because I won't be surprised. I'm not a lawyer. I don't operate in the judiciary. People, of course, even the retired justice of the Supreme Court have also already told us people are buying judgments. So when you sell judgment, it means that you are working now from answer. So you prepare there must be error, there will be issues. So we are not. I'm not surprised. I may not have evidence. Nobody, but what is obvious, what we can see, clearly shows us that the judiciary is not above board.
It's not
and
above.
that's the truth. That's what it is. So with respect to this Kano appeal court judgment, with respect to the Kano governorship election, that issue was too serious for a state like Kano. We know the composition of Kano in terms of the no, for anybody not to have given 101% attention to that thing, to treat it with the level of levity and come and just explain it as a clerical error. No,
it should be.
We should be. These are things that we should go above in this country.
Yeah, there are some critical issues that we shouldn't hear. We don't hear it happen in other climes. So why should we hear that happening here? There's a lot we can continue to talk about, but unfortunately we are running out of time. It is always wonderful to have you around, Mr. Ernest, on the show. And that's all we can take on Viewer Exclusive for this episode. Until I come your way again, on behalf of myself and the entire crew, have a lovely week.